All right, hey, I'm John Gordon. I'm here with Positive University, and my guest is Brandon Marshall, one of my favorite people on the planet. Brandon, how are you?
Man, it's an honor to be sitting here with you, man. I really appreciate this opportunity. I am
So
good.
where are you right now?
We're in Tucson, Arizona at the Increase Conference. The Increase Conference is put on by a group called PAO, Professional Athlete Outreach. And the easiest way to describe it is there's around 200 NFL couples, married couples here learning about Jesus and learning about marriage.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So let's talk about where you got started, where you grew up. I'd love to first know about your childhood.
So I'm originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and my childhood is interesting. It's almost like I'm an army brat. I've been all over the place, but my father, he didn't serve. I'm originally from Pittsburgh, and we were there up until my fifth grade year. And we're the only ones that moved down south. We moved to Orlando, Florida. So fifth grade year, I was in Orlando. Sixth and seventh grade year, I was in Orlando. And then my father went back to Pittsburgh, and my brother and we went to Atlanta where my mother moved to. And we ended up being there for a few years. And then I went back to Florida my junior and senior year. Florida always felt like home. Florida still feels like home. But my entire family is in Pittsburgh outside of my siblings and mom and dad.
So I know you went to UCF. What made that decision possible to go to UCF?
So I'm sitting down with Ron Zook at the University of Florida. When I moved down to Florida, there was this guy named Eric Rouse. Eric loved the Florida Gators. And I was like, well, let me look into this Gator thing. And I was new to Florida. And then I ended up falling in love with the Florida Gators through Eric. And from that moment on, I said, that's where I'm going to go to school. And I started going to their games, and I started going into their camps, and they start recruiting me and talking to me, and things were great. Fast forward, Steve Spurrier takes the job with the Washington Redskins. Ron Zook comes in. He's now the coach, takes over recruiting. I make it to official visit, and I'm there. And then Sunday comes, and that's when you sit down with the coach. And if he haven't offered you, he offer you, or maybe say they're going in a different direction. So I'm sitting down with Coach Zook with my father early Sunday morning, and Coach Zook is telling me about his plans and his plans for me. And he said, Brandon, we want you to play free safety. And I'm like, oh, man, I can do that and probably be really good at it, but my passion, my heart's at the wide receiver position. And I tried to explain that to coach, like, look, coach, camp is 3-4 weeks. Just give me through camp to prove to you that I can play wide receiver. And if I don't, you can put me anywhere on the field. Coach Zook looked around for about 5-10 seconds. Then he came back to me. He's like, do you want to be a Gator or not? And I just peacefully looked at my dad and Coach Zook, and I said, thanks for the opportunity, Coach. I'm going to go to the University of Central Florida because they offered me at wide receiver, and they were throwing it, 50, 60 times a game. And to be honest with you, I only had, 3 offers, and UCF was one of them. University of Connecticut, UCF, and the Florida Gators, my dream. And in that moment, I had to go with my gut and say, you know what? I have to go with my passion over my heart right now.
I love that. So what was it like to see UCF have such an incredible year this year?
Proud. I mean, that was the cool thing about going to UCF was, we were stepping into tradition, but a young tradition, which meant we had the opportunity to help build our program. My class was the first class to lead our school to a bowl game, to go to a championship. So to see where we were then in Conference USA to where we're at today, the national champions, because I know people, they don't agree with it, but hey, we're the only undefeated team. So it was proud to see, just how those men went out there and those boys went out there and just did an awesome job all year and just put our school on display for the world to see.
So then you go to the NFL, and you're one of these amazing stories where when you started out, right, you were considered, someone who maybe had a bad attitude or was getting in trouble a lot. And then over the years of your career, you become this incredible statesman. I mean, you become this incredible leader, this great culture builder. How does something like that happen? How do you go from where you were to where you are now? Take us back to the beginning of your career.
Wow. Man, I wish we had more time. We only have around 30 minutes, so I can't dive so deep into my past, but I will say it's all over the internet, so you can Google, the transgressions that I was involved in. And, you can see the picture being painted of, where I was in my career and where I was off the field. The long story short, all of my relationships were volatile. I was arrested a few times. Like, it seemed like every off season I was being arrested, and it was certain that you were going to hear my name on ESPN. Brandon Marshall here again. And I met this beautiful girl at the University of Central Florida. We were dating, and our marriage, our relationship, and then our marriage, so rocky. You had me, and I'll start with me. This broken man, this broken young man that didn't deal with baggage from my childhood and my past relationship that was really extremely volatile. And I loved this girl, but I started taking out all of my frustrations and pain on her. So anyways, you have these two people that probably both need to work on some things before coming together and joining to be one. Broken and trying to live and try to do this marriage thing, but literally we had no clue. And, we were living in hell, and, just fighting, trying to, meet the right people, the right counselor that can help us, because we knew we loved each other, led us to people that can help us learn, that taught us about communication and validation and what marriage is. And the biggest factor was, the people that led us to our church, Redeeming Word Christian Center. And it was there where it was the first time we both were able to see the example of who God was and his love, his grace, his mercy. And it was also the first time that we were able to see what marriage was. Because our church is pretty cool because we have Pastor Ed and Yvette Brinson. So why that's cool is because, a lot of times you see the man standing in the pulpit preaching, but they did it together, right? And it seemed like their sweet spot was marriage. They knew how important they knew how important marriage was for us as Christians, and what it does for a world. And it seemed like they were preaching on it every Sunday. So we were in this place of brokenness and trying to be in this relationship together and trying to do it the right way. But we had no clue, but we were able to see them every Thursday and Sunday doing it together. And then they discipled us. They would spend that extra time coming to our house, and we had an encounter with God. We gave our life to Christ. We started going to PAO, where we're at now. We do that every year. This is our 7th year in a row. And that's what happened for us. Our lives was radically changed. And like what we like to call it, we were transformed. But for me personally, so that's my story with my wife, but me personally, I also had to deal with some mental health things, right? I was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. So the best way I can describe that is it's an emotional disorder. We both can walk into a room, something can happen. It upsets both of us. But me, at the time, it took me longer to get back down to baseline because I didn't have the skills and tools to be able to cope with those things and self-regulate. So I spent 3 months in the outpatient program working on those things, and I truly believe, I was a product of my environment, the things that happened in my childhood and the environment that I was in really shaped me mentally and physically. So I literally had to spend an entire off season breaking everything that I thought about what the world looked like and what a woman looked like, what a man looked like, and just rebuilding those values and learning for myself. And, we truly believe that's where our passion is. I mean, that's where our purpose is help bridge the gap in the mental health community. So, you have this mental health thing on one side where I had to deal with that, something clinical. And then on the other end, it was, giving our life to Christ, and those two things coming together, that's where that transformation happened.
And over time, did you have to work on this process of being mentally stronger, spiritually stronger in terms of, in the growth process, or was it something that just happened right away, or did it take time to grow? And is it more of a habit now? Is it just who you are now? Whereas in the beginning you were working at it, but now it feels more about who you are.
Yeah. So we gave our life to Christ around 7 years ago. And, there's something, every case is different. Everybody's walk is different. And for us, there was something that just happened, right? Where we knew this was the way, that he is our Lord and Savior. But what we've learned is, you always have to work at it. You will never arrive. That's why we have to be in our word daily. That's why we have to pray daily. That's why we have to be in the body, the church. Every single week we have to be involved. We have to serve. There's certain things that you have to do because we need it. That's why it's called the daily bread. Feed your soul before you even feed your body, because it's that important. In the times that I'm on fire and I'm awesome in my career, I'm awesome, and with the foundation and with the world, it's usually the times where I am intimate with God and I'm connected to the source. And the times where I'm really struggling, like recently, it's like, I need to look at this. I'm not where I was because I'm not connected to the source. So, through these years, I've learned that it's always a process, and you get stronger, and it does become, easier, but you always have to do it. It doesn't matter where you're at in your walk, whether you just give your life to Christ or you're a pastor, that's been sitting in the pulpit for 20, 30 years.
I love about you is you were, a product of your environment, your circumstance, but now you're actually creating your circumstance. You're creating your environment. You're a game changer, a world changer, a team changer. So tell us about that now. Like, what are you passionate about now in terms of mental health, and what are you doing to help others?
Yeah, we are super passionate about bridging the gap between the mental health community and the world, right? Patient to provider, patient to family member. It's extremely important for us to be the catalyst, to be one of the voices, one of the faces, when it comes to mental health, because it's highly stigmatized. Where we are today in the mental health community is where the cancer and HIV community was 20, 25 years ago. So it's still a taboo topic. It has gotten better since we've been in this field, but we've noticed that it's time for us to change the narrative in the media, in our homes, in our school systems, in corporations, in our government. So that's number one. The second thing is we believe that the children are the key. We spend a lot of our time and our resources, most of our time and resources, doing preventative work and intervening early at that adolescence age and group. We travel around the country teaching youth mental health first aid. What are you supposed to do? And the best way I can describe what we do is like we basically taken CPR. Like, okay, what's going on? So this person's choking. This person is going through something. Now, what do you do? Right? Firstly, you got to be able to identify it. Then you got to be able to have an action plan that we call algae. But I won't bore you guys with that. But you have to have an action plan to be able to do what's next. We're not trying to diagnose anyone. We're not trying to give anyone treatment. We're just trying to offer help and support until you can get the help that you need.
How do you stay positive? You've been injured, right? You've had challenges in your career. Stuff happens to us every day, right? So when stuff happens, how does Brandon Marshall stay positive?
So number one is my faith. And number two would be my support system, my family and friends that's in that circle. And I naturally have a positive attitude. But a lot, like, man, the world is hard. Like it beats you up, and it's a roller coaster. You have ups and downs. Sometimes you're on the mountain, sometimes you're in the valley, and in those moments, you have to have an action plan, right? And you have to know who you are, right? Who are you in the world? Who are you in Christ? You know, if you're a believer, you have to understand those things. And because I know that, you know, I'm not here just to play football, that I'm here to do something greater than me, and that's to serve others. That's probably the number one thing that holds me accountable and that keeps me on track, because I know it's not about me. You know, so much, it's so easy for me when, you know, it's tough and I don't want to do certain things, or, you know, it's time for me to shake out of something. And I just look up and like, you know what? There's so many people that's counting on me, you know, or looking at me.
As someone who's not naturally positive, I can really appreciate what you're sharing. So I love to ask people the Triple H question. So it's hero, hardship, highlight. Who's one of your heroes?
I like that. Triple H. I'm going to steal that from you.
You can have it. You know, there's a team, Australian rules football. They hadn't won a championship in 36 years. They won it this year because they did the Triple H exercise during training camp together. Guys were breaking down, sharing their stories. They got to know each other better. Then they were connected. They became committed. Next thing you know, they're fighting for each other, and they won a championship. So it's a great story. They sent me the article that was written about in Australia. So yeah, so you could have it. Take it to your teams. It's so powerful.
That's so powerful. I'm going to take that. So I guess we start with the first H, right? Hero. Wow. So this is complex for me because my father was my hero growing up, and to some extent he still is. You know, so much that he sacrificed and done for me. But then when I became a man and dove into the Bible and understood what a kingdom man was, my hero became Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. You know, my father was awesome, but he didn't always do things the godly way, you know, and that's what I believe a man is, you know, is a man that, you know, set aside his own understanding and, you know, his thoughts and follow what, you know, God says is right and wrong. So I know it's like, wow, Jesus Christ is your hero, but he really is. And he's done so much for me. So I will have to go there. But, you know, there's so many people I respect. You know, when you look at football, I grew up loving Barry Sanders. I know you asked for one, but I just feel like I want to give a little more. Barry Sanders was a guy that I looked up to because I loved the way he ran with the ball. I was a running back, and he just ran with grace and elegance. And I was like, man, that's awesome. You know, Martin Luther King, I still listen to his sermons today. You know, I downloaded everything that is out there on iTunes, and I listen to some of those things, and I apply those things now. You know, so much going on in the world with, you know, racial inequality and oppression. And it's like, let me go see what Dr. King had to say about that, right? So he's a hero. Man, I can go on and on, but, you know, those are some great, that's some great people that we can start with.
Yeah, we have some of the same heroes. I mean, Jesus, one of my heroes as well. I think about how he encouraged, how he challenged. He was the ultimate coach, the ultimate leader, right? The ultimate inspirer. He served. I mean, if you want to model someone, let's model Jesus. So I love that. Martin Luther King Jr., one of my heroes as well. Yeah, so powerful. Okay, so now we move to a hardship that you faced, a defining moment in your life that helped you become who you are today. There's like one moment.
Yeah. So that one moment is wrapped up in years. You know, so I was drafted at the age of 22. In the first 4 years of my career, best way I can describe it, I was living in hell. My life was spiraling out of control, and I had no clue what was going on. And you know, we talked about being arrested, you know, and the volatile relationships. And you know, the tipping point was when my wife was arrested, and she was arrested because of something I did, and seeing the pain that I inflicted on her, and how, you know, what, you know, my actions and what I was doing now really started impacting someone else. That was hard for me. And I just remember, you know, people around me, two people in particular, my agent and my longtime assistant, calling, saying, Brandon, you need help. And, you know, a month later, I was on the campus of McLean Hospital, #2 psychiatric hospital in the world, #1 in this country. And I was there for 3 months in the outpatient program. When I tell you my world opened up, it was the most phenomenal experience I've ever had. I learned so much about not only the world, but I learned so much about myself from the neurological side, like how my brain works and, how I comprehend things and see things. And then to the emotional side, like what tools I had and what tools I didn't have naturally, like the easiest things about validation and communication, I had no clue. And I spent 3 months in dialectical behavior therapy, picking up the tools and skills I needed to self-regulate and just deal with just common stress to borderline personality disorder. I was in mentalization theory and mentalization therapy because a lot of times I thought black and white. So being able to deal with the frontal lobe and, where we process things and comprehend things, like I needed to go through that to learn, like, hey, Brandon, sometimes there are gray areas and, how to navigate through those things, right? That didn't come natural for me. I was in self-assessment where I just sat in a circle and just talked about what was going on in me that day or that week, which is extremely important. As men, we hold things in. We're taught to be macho. The best illustration I can give you is you have 2 little kids, right? I have twins. They're 3 years old, right? And this is what the world tells my twins. My little girl falls down. The first thing we do is we pick them up and we validate them and say, you know what? It's okay. Baby, I'm here for you. Okay, I got you. We console them. And we're telling them it's okay to connect with those emotions. I'm telling her it's okay to cry. But when that little boy falls down, the first thing we say is, get up. Boys don't cry. Be tough. Shake it off. And at that age, we're teaching our men not to be able to connect with those emotions and deal with those things, that it's not okay. So sitting in self-assessment broke down all those stigmas and taught me that it's okay to connect with those emotions. And that's when you are strong, is when you show that vulnerability and you touch that side. So, man, I spent a lot of time, at McLean Hospital just pulling back those layers.
Man, that is so powerful. I never thought about that way between men and women and what we learn. It makes so much sense. So tell me about now then your highlight. Did your hardship lead to your highlight, or is there just a highlight that you have in your life that really stands out?
Wow, so many highlights, but that definitely was a highlight, right? Because it was at McLean Hospital where I found my purpose. And, there's so many people walking this earth that have no clue. So many people that are born and they're on this earth for 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 years, and they never walk in purpose. And when you find out what your purpose is, man, that's when you're born. That's when you're truly alive. So it was in that moment where I was able to, realize who I was and why I was on this planet. So that definitely was probably one of the biggest highlights. My wife is a highlight. She was the one that taught me how to love. And, I'm just like, sometimes I can be this hard brick, and she just chipped away at it. And, she really was the catalyst for all this change in my life. My children, wow, how amazing is that, to have twins. And it wasn't like it just happened. Like, we fought for our twins. We wanted to break the cycle and do things the right way. And then God blessed me with this amazing ability to be 6'5", 230 pounds, run a 4.4 40, jump 37 inches off the ground, catch this football, play in front of 70,000 folks live. There's another 20 million viewing. And it's like, at the end of the day, you can say he gets the glory. So that in itself is a miracle.
I love that. What do you love most about playing football?
I struggle in this area. One reason why I struggle in this area, because I just love football. It honestly saved my life, right? If for so many, sports is a way out, right? Where you're first generation of coming into money and to, seeing the world differently, success. And like, if I don't know where I would be without football. So this is just this fleshly love that I just have for football and what it's done for me. But man, was it different when I found out that, and I learned that I wasn't here. He didn't bless me with all of these attributes to praise myself, but to give him the glory and more so use it as a platform. And it was probably around year 6 where, you know, things shifted for me. I was like, wow, football is a platform to fulfill my purpose. There's 70,000 folks there. This is a sanctuary. You know, this is my ministry. You know, there's 20 million folks tuning in right now. What message am I sending? And then the cool thing is, like, everyone knows where I was when I first got in the NFL the first 4 or 5 years. And for them to look at me and say, what changed in his life? There's something going on there, you know, and I think that brings us back to the, you know, Jesus. It's like, oh, that's what it is, right? And that's the most powerful thing.
Yeah, when I saw you on the inside of the NFL, I'm like, he is unbelievable. Like, he went from this player, again, to now the statesman, incredible broadcaster, sharing all this great insights about the game. And I'm like, what changed in him? So now I know. It's good to know the backstory about what caused the change, because I think people are probably wondering what happened as well.
Yeah, amazing, man. Amazing.
Yeah. So 2 final questions. One word. If you had to pick one word for your year this year, what's that one word that will drive you to be your best, or the one word you want to focus on to live your life to the fullest?
Holy.
Mm.
You know, and the reason why I picked that word, you know, I just want to say Jesus because I said Jesus 1,000 times already, right? So I want to switch it up a little bit. But there is power in the name Jesus. But when I am connected to the source, man, I'm a rock star. And when I fall away from him and being holy, or striving to be holy and righteous, man, I'm a mess. So I've realized that I've been chasing after all these fruits, my career, and, you know, I want my marriage to look this way. I want my business to look this way. And I forgot about the main thing. So instead of me chasing after all those things and exhausting myself, I just want to be the best man that I can be. Because I know if I do that in a godly way, all those other things will be given to me if that matches up with the will that he has over my life.
I love that. You know, invest in the root and you get the fruit. Focus on the fruit, ignore the root, the tree dies. And you're talking about investing in that root. I love that.
Yep.
All right, final question. What are you excited about now going forward? So much ahead for you, but like, if you had to pick one thing right now that you're excited about, what is it? Or you can share a couple things you're excited about.
Yeah, I've been doing that, right? It's a habit for me, right?
Yeah, a couple things is good.
What am I excited about? I'm just excited about being free. You know, I'm excited about being comfortable with who I am and, you know, and just striving, you know, to be better. Like I'm just thankful and grateful for the process. Like I find a lot of joy in the process, right? Not focused on the destination, although it's there. And I know, you know, some goals and things that I want to achieve, but just every day, just waking up and just saying, how can I be a better husband? How can I be a better father? How can I be a better wide receiver? You know, how can I be a better, entrepreneur? You know, and it's like, well, let me put a championship game plan together and stick to the process and find joy in that. Because a lot of times we don't do that, right? We get so focused on that. I have a gym and I have a CrossFit gym and I want 250 members and 250, and we neglect the 5 that we have, and the 5 that we have is the ones that's going to, you know, get us to 20, and that 20 is going to get us to 100, and it's like you don't enjoy what you have and where you're at.
I love that. So you said entrepreneur. Is that the CrossFit gym, or are there other businesses you're involved in?
So our for-profit, we have athletic performance centers where we train athletes, you know, from ages 7 all the way up to 60, 70-year-old, marathon runners or triathlon athletes or, you know, Spartan racers. You know, we have professional athletes that come in, you know, in their off season. We have collegiate athletes coming in, preparing for combine, where we house them for 3 months and we do everything from their medical to their meal plan to their training and their preparation for interviews.
Love that. All right, so there's a teenager listening to this right now. Your last words on this interview. What will you tell them? Or what would you want to tell them to help them through their challenges in their life? Imagine yourself as a teenager. You're giving them advice. What would you share?
Wow, that's so interesting. I had a college buddy text me yesterday asking, just out of the blue. He didn't say hi or nothing. He said, "What would you tell your younger self?" And I said, I wouldn't tell him anything. I would just show him the bigger picture, right? Because for me, seeing the bigger picture sometimes, most of the time, is all I need, right? So we get caught up in the moment, we react so often that, it just ruins the bigger picture, hurts the bigger picture. And, when you're mindful, you start to respond. And, I just feel like for me, when I see that bigger picture, I go from reacting, right? Not thinking, impulsivity, to responding, being able to come from a place of compassion, a place of, just mindfulness.
Yeah, I love it. Brandon Marshall, thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it. Love your inspiration. Love your example. Love your transformation, and love the impact that you're making on so many. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, John.